14, Shri Krishna says to Arjun, always glorifying me, strenuous and steadfast in their vows, bowing down to me with devotion, they worship me ever disciplined. This verse describes what Mahatmas, great souls, do. Mahatmas, great souls, always glorify God. The word satata, you see, is used 3 times in this verse. Shri Krishna also uses the word mam, meaning me. Satata means always, and mam means me. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya Ji says that these Mahatmas, great souls, always glorify the form of Brahman, that is the Supreme Soul. Bhagavatam Brahma Sarupam Mam. How can one always glorify God? The word kirtan is used for glorifying. Kirtan means telling another person something about God which you like. Kirtan nutam kirtanam. This is a very simple and straightforward definition. What these devotees do is that when they find a listener, then they become a speaker themselves and begin describing the form of Brahman to them, and when they find a speaker, then they begin listening about the form of Brahman. And if they do not find a speaker or listener, then they sit alone and begin humming or thinking about the form of Brahman themselves. There is a quote in the Upanishads that those who describe Brahman become Brahman. Satyam Gnanamantaram Brahma. This is because they are preoccupied with Brahman at all 3 occasions. When Mahatma great souls are talking, then they're talking about Brahman. When they're listening, then they're listening about Brahman. And when they're neither speaking nor listening, then even though they're alone, thoughts of Brahman are in their minds. This is Satatam Kirtiyanta, always glorifying God. There is nothing apart from God in their minds. One must practice this. This is because we're always saying one thing or the other, listening to one thing or the other, or humming one thing or the other, or thinking one thing or the other. We're always either speaking, listening, or humming. When we're alone, then we're humming, We're always doing something. There should be God in each and every one of these occasions. You should begin here because we spend the majority of our time humming, This is where you should begin from. If you're doing some housework or office work, then you should think about God. I often see that when housewives or house husbands are doing cooking, there's often music playing in the background. Instead of this, what if while they were cooking, when they sang, as Roshni's Ma Banna Ben and Sagit Bendu, Vipatu Pamakira Gopkanya, Morari Pada Vichitram Vuti, Abhyadikam Moho Vacha Govinda Damodar Madhavene. People say it during discourses, but do they say it while they're doing the cooking? It's very easy to say it along with me, but do you say it at home? If it's singing it during discourses, then at least you form a habit of singing it, but you should also sing it at home. If this habit does not form, then modern music will be playing. I once asked a person who was staying what the latest songs were, and she said it was something along the lines of, my heart is mad and I can't sleep at night. It's something like that. It's better that I don't remember it. If something is not in your line of work, then how can you remember it? Rather than that, if you sang about God and always glorified God, then you see the difference in what runs through your mind. Rather than my heart is mad and I cannot sleep at night, you should sing Vaje Vaje Kamandanam, Samastapa Kandanam, Swabhakta Chitara Janam, Sudeva Nandanam. If you are singing like this about God and do not have any other thoughts in your mind apart from God, then this is truly glorifying God. What also happens is that regarding the speech, we're using it, as it said in the scriptures, that we don't know how much energy is being used in the words that we're speaking. Vat, Vyaha, Virya, Vadapi, Adijayate. A lot of energy is used up in speaking. If we're using that energy, then should we not use it on a good path and for good purposes? It's accepted that we cannot go without speaking, so why don't we say something good? A person uses up all his expenditure of speech and finishes it off. The scriptures even say, using an example of around 400 years ago, women did not have so much longevity, and in ancient times you would see a lot of men, widowers, because there was no concept of family planning, and the more children you would have, then the more you would think it's God's grace. Therefore, wherever you look at someone's home, then they'll always have 8 to 10 children. Even nowadays, when you go to the villages, you may not have asked, at least I don't ask, but when the people describe their families, they say they've got, for example, 8 men and 5 women. I think, oh my goodness, if there are 8 men and 5 women, then what have these people done for their entire lives? How can a woman give birth to 13 children live? This woman will be frustrated. There are queens in the Middle East who only do this for the whole lives and don't do any other work, but these women have to do the housework. By the time they turn 45 to 50, they normally pass away. The scriptures say that just like women in olden days would give birth to a lot of children and then pass away very quickly, in the same way, the more words that a person speaks, then the more that the tongue begins to pass away. This is because words are born from the tongue. The tongue begins to pass away. Therefore, should we not make good use of the speech? Should we not use that speech to say God's name? In glorifying God, the word satatya, continuance, is necessary. Shri Krishna says this in this verse, that one should satatya, always glorify God. It will not work if you just sing bhajans, divine song, and clap your hands for 15 minutes. You have to be always doing it. It's a word worth underlining, always, satatya. Only then will you be a Mahatma, a great soul. The rest of the people just go and join in and clap their hands. They are not Mahatmas, great souls. Satatya, continuance, is necessary because of two reasons. If we're on the path of spirituality, then this will assist in our development. If we're already successful in the path of spirituality, then this is necessary in order to ensure that our success does not end. If we have attained Siddha Avastha, the state of acquiring spiritual powers, then it's possible that this state will go away. Therefore, it is necessary to always glorify God and to always remember God. We need this. Tukaram Ji writes that at the beginning I went to spiritual discourses, I listened to good people and met them, and because of these spiritual discourses, I began glorifying God, performing jap, chanting the name of God, remembering the name of God, and performing penances, and as a result, Tukaram became one with the Supreme Soul. Yet despite becoming one with the Supreme Soul, Tukaram still sings divine songs because his root nature would not go away. This was the state of Advaita, non-dualism, where there was no longer a difference between God and Tukaram. Such was the state that Tukaram reached. Yet despite reaching the state of oneness with God, Tukaram still sang bhajans, performed jap, chanting the name of God, and performing bhakti, devotion, because his nature of being deluded did not go away. Now he had formed a habit of singing bhajans, divine songs, and could not go on without this, even after reaching such a high state of being the same form as God. A Mahatma, a great soul, continues to remember God. Narsi Mehta sang, Harina Janto Mukti na Mage, Mage Janma Janma Avtare, Nitya Seva Nitya Kirtan, Ocho Nirakha Nanda Kumare. The Lord's devotees did not ask for liberation, but for birth after birth, so that he could do more service, more singing about the Lord's qualities, and find more meaning in his or her devotion towards the Lord. Narsi Mehta also uses the word Kirtan, glorifying God with nit, meaning more, in front of it, showing that one should always be glorifying God. This is not Kirtan, glorifying God only during the middle of the year, but always Kirtan, glorifying God. This is a Mahatma, a great soul. God never goes away from such a devotee's mind. There are also different types of Kirtan, glorifying God. Ramanujacharya describes Kirtan as remembering God. He writes in his commentary that what the Supreme Soul is trying to say is that Kirtan, glorifying God, is Madguna Vishesha Vachani, Mananami Smutva, Kulakita Sarvanga, Hashkatat Kandana, Shri Ram Narayan Krishna, Vasudev Ityam Agni. My names describe my specific qualities. Remembering these in one's mind and getting excessive happiness in all parts of the body while doing so, his throat chokes with delight when the names of Shri Ram, Narayan, Krishna, Vasudev, etc. are chanted. If I were to demonstrate this using an example from the material world, then in ancient times, women would never take the names of their husbands, and when they had to say it, then they would be so shy that you'd be able to see it on their face that she's taking her husband's name. You can see this on her face. What I mean to say is that in the same way, when a devotee is saying God's name, then every part of the devotee's body is filled with happiness. Not only that, but the devotee's throat is filled with delight. The throat only chokes because of two reasons, either delight or sorrow. Here it is clearly stated that the throat chokes with delight. The devotee gets so much bliss out of saying God's name. There's a very nice bhajan that goes, Narayan Nure, Tame Letan Dashoma, Dunya Kese Re Bhagwan Kotache, Kota Vanshoma, Harine Man Motashe, Nam Narayan Nure, Tame Leta Dashoma. While chanting the name of Narayan, people will say things about you, but don't worry about them. The whole world will say that devotees are wrong. Do not count these as wrong, because minds that belong to Hari, God, are great, while chanting Narayan's God's name, do not fear. One should say God's name with love. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, the age of vice, which is the current age, Kirtan, glorifying God, is the best path to liberation. Galokeshava Kirtana. In the Satya Yuga, the first stage, the age of truth, Gnan, wisdom, was the best path. In the Treta Yuga, the age after the Satya Yuga, Gyan, meditation, was the best path. In the Dwapara Yuga, the age after the Treta Yuga, Upasana, worship, and Yagna, sacrifices, were the best path. But now in the Kali Yuga, the best path to liberation is Kirtan, chanting the name of God. We will see that in the 10th chapter, Shri Krishna will say, Yagnanam Dapa Yugosmi. One should keep chanting my name. You should keep chanting God's name and should always be glorifying God. Hari se lage raho re bhai, banat banat banjaye, banta banta kabat banjati hai, bati nahi chalta, lekin lage rahe na jaye. Remain close to Hari, God, my friend, because then you will reach. As you are reaching, you do not even know that you should remain close to Hari. You will reach. Why will you not reach? Our difficulty is that we do not remain close to Hari, God. Remain close to Hari. When we chant God's name, Survesh Acharyaji says that the power of words is inconceivable. Shabde Shakte Achintava. Words have the power to wake up a sleeping person. If Chadanlal is sleeping and we shout Chadanlal, then Chadanlal will wake up. Chadanlal gets up from his sleep upon you taking his name. Then if you chant God's name, will God not come? Words have power in them. Then, if you chant God's name, will God not come? Words have power in them. Even every name has power in it. If someone says the name of a drink, and you like that water, if you like that drink, then water starts running from your mouth. If someone says lemon sherbet, then you think about how nice and sour it is. This is the power that a name has. Water starts running from one's mouth. Words have an inconceivable power. Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji spoke about a type of kirtan glorifying God as singing and dancing with a multitude of fellow devotees. There is a reason why we have bhakti yogis. If you read history, then you will know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in Bengal, and at the time there was a Muslim government, and Muslims had a lot of power. The Sufi sect was running at the time, and at that time they would have qawwali, where they would get together in a group and sing. Now people have made qawwalis so denatured. Before there were Sufi singing ghazal, songs of love about the Supreme Soul, with so much absorption that they would begin dancing. In front of this type of singing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself started singing about and dancing to songs to Sri Krishna with so much absorption and immersion. In each and every age, according to the activities of the time, saints gave society what was necessary in order to go on a path of kirtan, glorifying God. Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji did this during his time. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya started this by doing kirtan, glorifying God on the form of Brahman. Then Srimad Ramanujacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srimad Vallabhacharya showed society how to do kirtan, glorifying God during their times. Srimad Vallabhacharya says that the word of kirtan, glorifying God, should be of God's name. This is his condition. Thereafter it is fine whether it's a Vedic name or a worldly name, but the word of kirtan, glorifying God, should be of God, as the word must represent the Supreme Soul. It is fine even if it's worldly. These include terms written in books of faith, written during the post-Vedic age, in people nearby Vraj. They wrote these in very straightforward language. If it is in worldly language, then it's also fine. For example, there are the folk songs of Vraj. There are also the worldly songs of Gujarat and Maharashtra. They can also be kirtan, glorifying God. In Maharashtra, anyone here Marathi? In Maharashtra, Vithal is such a famous name of God. But if you look at the entire Sanskrit language, then there is no word Vithal. There is no name Vithal in the Vedas, but if you say Vithal Rupai, then the whole of Maharashtra will stand up. Srimad Vallabhacharya said that kirtan, glorifying God, can be of a worldly name of God. In fact, he named one of his sons Vithal. It's fine even if a worldly name of God is used. It must be a name of God, only then will it be kirtan, glorifying God. When people in Vraj say the name of Kana or Kanaya for Shri Krishna with feelings, then these names Kana and Kanaya are not in the Srimad Bhagavad or in any ancient scriptures, but the sweetness that there is in Kana or Kanaya or Lalan, as Pujya Dongreshi Maharaj says, is not there if you keep saying Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna's name has pride, but the bliss with which his mother Yashoda calls him Lalan, and the feelings that arise in his heart because of this, are kirtan, glorifying God. In the word kirtan, two things are necessary. The first is that if one has done some work for God, then one should have a feeling in the heart that they have come to God after doing God's work. The second is that one should have the experience and faith that God is always doing something for them. If someone feels that God is always doing something for them, then glorifying God begins. And on the other side, if God is always doing something for them, for one, then one should also do something for God. The preparation and efforts for this are necessary for kirtan, glorifying God. This is a very beautiful verse of the Gita. One should always be doing kirtan, glorifying God. Shri Krishna also says in this verse that one should always be strenuous in their vows and always be making efforts. One can not only do kirtan, glorifying God, one must always also be dhruv, strenuous in their vows. I always say that we work so strenuously and we make so much efforts in order to attain ordinary material pleasures. After coming to live in the material world, we accepted our responsibilities of our family, our children, our society, etc. We make so many efforts in order to fulfill these responsibilities. After working out the whole day, we come back at 8:30 p.m. or 9 p.m. and if the spouse is at home, then they can rest as if the spouse is not there, and then we have to do always making so much efforts. We can see that physical efforts, that the person is continuously working, but even when the body is not making efforts physically, our mind is making so many efforts. For example, we wish to win over the other person and give them happiness. This is because we know that if the other person is happy, then we will also be happy. Our happiness resides in their happiness, and their happiness resides in our happiness. We are continuously making these efforts. If we're making so many efforts to attain material pleasures, then how many efforts are we making to attain spiritual happiness? Think about it, whether we have ever thought about making our soul happy or to make the Supreme Soul happy. Have we ever thought that if my God is happy, then I will also be happy? What should I do so that my God will be happy? Mahatmas, great souls, make efforts in this direction. I'm not trying to say that material pleasures are useless, because we have to attain material pleasures, and that is certain, but Mahatma, deluded souls, get stuck only in material pleasures, whereas Mahatmas, great souls, go slightly further than them and think about the pleasures of the mind, the intellect, the soul, and the Supreme Soul. Mahatmas, great souls, continuously make efforts. How do they make efforts? They make efforts by being dhruv, strenuous in their vows. Srimad Adi Shankaracharyji writes in his commentary that dhar means dharanam stiram achalyam vatam yasham te dharatra, means a vow that is steady and does not become wandering. There are two types of vows. The first is vows that are wandering and vows that do not become wandering. If I were to say in simple language that if a person says that he is making a resolve or promise, then the elders always ask what promise he is making. Is Bhishma making a promise, or is Krishna making a promise? If Bhishma makes a promise, then he would never break it. But if Krishna makes a promise, then he is allowed to break it. Only Krishna can break a promise, whereas we cannot break a promise. Krishna is a revolutionary, and therefore he can break a promise. In Saurashtra, Gangasati told her daughter-in-law Parbai, while giving her a message, that Merude dage pachena manna dage bale bangi pare brahmande. The mountain Meru may move, but the mind should not move, no matter how much the world falls apart. This is what great saints are like. The world may fall apart, but the mind level will never begin wandering. If you walk on the path of truth, then consider that there will be many paths to make the mind become wandering. When a person climbing a mountain is on the ground, then he does not have much of a fear of falling over. This is because not much will happen if he falls on the ground. The impact will be so little that the worst that could happen is that he'll get a few cuts or bruises that could easily cover up with a plaster. He does not have many difficulties, but as soon as he starts climbing up, then he has a very big fear of falling. The more he climbs up, then the greater the fear of him falling. And if he falls up from high up, then he does not get saved. People have done courses in mountaineering, and people have succeeded in mountaineering and have letters of praise, but has anyone taken a course in falling from a mountain? If someone offers courses of fearing and gives certificates to people who fear the most with a photograph of them in fear, then this will not work. But people have to learn how to climb and how to develop. People do not have to learn how to fall. And the further one goes in the path of development, then the more the possibility of him falling increases. Not only that, the higher the position for which one falls, then the greater the damage that this does to the person. A person who falls from the bottom merely has a few cuts and bruises and nothing else happens to him. But if a person falls from 10,000 feet, then you will be lucky to even find a stone from his body. A strenuous vow is such that once a person sets foot on this path, then no matter how many hurricanes blow at him, how many strong winds blow at him, and no matter what happens, he does not move from that path. On the majority of occasions, there are three things that make a person wandering and break a person's vows. Dimmantu niti prana divasu vantu lakshmistira bhavatu kachtu vayatishtam adaiva vamataram mastu yugante eva nyatpata pravincha lanti padana dhiraha. Three things break a person's vows. First, thinking about what other people will say. Second, greed for something. Third, a fear of something. And the biggest fear of all being what? The fear of death, now or at another time. These are there are many reasons why a person gives up his vows, but these three are main. The fear of public opinion is the first thing that breaks a person's vows. This is because people fear society more than they fear God. This is a very big weakness of human beings. People do not fear themselves and do not fear God, but they fear society. Nobody knows how this fear became so powerful, but came. People do not fear themselves and do not fear God, but they have a very big fear of society. A steadfast vow is one where the person does not care what society says because he has decided his vow, he is authentic, and he is listening to the voice of his soul. He therefore walks on the path of spirituality. This is a vrata, a steadfast vow. Society may criticize a person today, but tomorrow they will praise that person. And then after 2 days, they may begin criticizing the person again. Nobody knows what society will do. The worldly writers of Maharashtra say that people still do not understand how they should live in society. You cannot please everybody all the time. It is impossible. You cannot do this. If you're walking through a market and you're in your own thoughts, so you don't see a person who's coming in front of you, then the person will shout, "Can you not even see me?" We therefore think that because this person has told us to look at him, we should look on that side when we walk to the market. Then people will say that we're walking only by looking on that side. There are difficulties when we're not looking and difficulties when we're looking on one side. If we're looking down, well, people will ask what we have done that has made us keep looking down. People will tell us not to look down. If we look at what people say, then it's very hot and we're looking very upwards and not straight ahead. A person has to come out of these four things. Whatever you do, society will criticize you. This is a characteristic of society. A person who is of vrata, a steadfast vow, does not fear public opinion. This person wants to keep his vows steadfast. I'm not saying that the person should act only according to his opinion and prejudices. I'm not giving the attitude like one where you say over and over again, dash for the world. This is not what I'm saying, but when it comes to the inner truth, then one apart from Indian scriptures will explain to you. Whenever questions about the fear of public opinion come, then the answer is given. Listen to this verse carefully. Deje kam alasyate, gramasyate kolamtajek, gramam janapadsyate, atarte putvi vinayajek. A family member causing turbulence to a family living in peace should be removed from the family. A family causing turbulence to a village living in peace should be removed from the village. A village causing turbulence to a kingdom or country living in peace should be removed from the kingdom. And if the world is causing turbulence to your spiritual development, then you should remove the world. Indian scriptures have given us so much splendor of thoughts. The first 3 lines deal with ethics, and the 4th line deals with spirituality. If everybody in a family are living together and getting along very well, but there is one person as a result of which there is turbulence in the family, then that person should be removed from the family. If there is a spoiled mango in the mango tree, then an advisable thing to do in order to prevent the other mangoes being spoilt is to put that mango to the side and throw it away. In the same way, when there are 11 to 20 people living in a joint family in the olden days, and some families were even bigger than this, or even now if there's one person in the family as a result of which the family is not getting peace of mind, then the scriptures say that that person should be removed from the family. If all the people in a village are living well together, but there's one family in a village as a result of which there is turbulence in the village, then the scriptures give the people in the villages the right to tell that family to leave the village. And if all the villages in a kingdom are living well together, and there is one village that is causing turbulence to all other villages, then that village should be removed from the kingdom. You can call these three things politics or sociology, whatever you want to call it. The fourth line deals with spirituality, and the rishis in the scriptures say that if the world is causing turbulence to your spiritual development, then you should remove the world. This is because nothing is more precious than your true self. It is important to remember this when you are in the path of spiritual development. Secondly, people give up their vows as a result of greed for something. The word Lakshmi is used to mean temptations, the attainment of something, or some selfish desire. If you wake up every morning at 5 a.m., bath and get ready at 6 a.m., sit down to do Mara, turning prayer beads while chanting the name of God, or Upasana worship, then these are vows. You are performing Upasana worship from 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., but if someone asks you to come for a walk with them at 6 a.m. tomorrow, because a VIP is going to come, and they will get you in contact with them, so they will benefit your business, then will the person say no, because the time between 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. is my appointment with God. If someone is going to come, then I will meet him later. At 6 a.m., my God is waiting for me, and I have given this time to God. Can a person say this? No. People break the vows. The meaning of this is that for this person, the industrialist is more important than God. This is greed. It is said in this verse that Lakshmi, greed for objects, comes, goes and does what a mind wishes. This applies to any type of Lakshmi, greed for objects. Lakshmi, greed for objects does not only mean currency notes, it can also mean power, glory and everything else. It can also mean wealth in general. It comes, it goes and does whatever it wishes. But human beings break the vows because of it. A person whose vows are unaffected by Lakshmi, greed for objects of any sort, is always successful in her vows. A lot of people say that they have done so much and yet are not attaining anything. I then always ask them whether they're doing it properly, and if they're doing it in a way it should be done. If we perform vows according to our own conveniences, then God will say that He will give us the fruit according to His own convenience, and that when God finds the right opportunity, then He will give us the fruit. This is because you are praying to God according to your own convenience. A person's vows should be unaffected by Lakshmi, the greed for objects. The third reason for which a person gives up vows is because of a fear of something. And the biggest fear of all is what? Death. Despite these three things that make a person wander, a person who is steadfast in his vows never leaves the path of justice that he has chosen. A person who is Dhruv, steadfast in his vows, becomes a Mahatma, a great soul. A person does not get the place of Mahatma, great soul, just like that. When a person reaches the state of Mahatma, then people worship his feet. Shri Krishna says in this verse that a Mahatma, a great soul, does namaskar and bows down to the Supreme Soul with devotion. In life, humility is very important. Bowing down teaches us humility. If a person is not humble, then he is not able to bow down. If a person wishes to practice bhakti devotion, and if a person wishes to become a Mahatma, a great soul, then she should ask herself whether her head bows down to anyone. A person only bows down her head or his head when she sees something that is greater than her and feels that there is something to attain from a thing that is greater than her. As a simple example, if a pitcher wishes for water to come inside it, then if the pitcher bows down, then the water will fill it. In the same way, if you think that there is something like a flowing river that is greater than us, and there is an empty pitcher inside us, then if we bow down, we will attain something for that thing. Only then will we bow. If there is a feeling of adoration towards something, then a person will bow down towards that thing. This is humility. The bottom line is that one should think that there is something greater than him. If a person thinks that there is nobody greater than him, then that person will never be able to bow down. If a person thinks that he is excellent, handsome, and greater than everybody else, then that person will also not be able to bow down. But if there is an acceptance of a possibility that somebody else can be greater than that person, then this acceptance is humility. This humility is a foundation of bowing down to someone. Secondly, what happens when somebody does namaskar, bowing down, is that na me iti namaha. Great saints say very nicely that there is na me, not me, and therefore no feeling of mindness. One does not feel that everything belongs to oneself. Only a person who feels like this can do namaskar, bowing down. Only such a person can bow. In Sanskrit, the words na and me are different, and if you put them together in Gujarati, then you can say ej na me, meaning only such a person can bow down. One should feel that nothing belongs to herself. This is because as soon as a person gets something, the first consequence is that her ego gets bigger. If a person gets a bit of beauty, then her head immediately goes higher. There is a toy like this, and you may have seen children carrying this toy. A child is blowing the whistle, but as soon as the child grows, then this whistle makes a sound, but there is a byproduct that it rolled out the piece of paper that expands from the whistle. You may have seen this toy of a whistle. What the child does is that the child has fun in blowing the whistle, and therefore the child blows the whistle. Therefore the main intention is to blow the whistle, but the byproduct is that the paper keeps expanding. In the same way, this intelligent energy that is flowing around the world, Brahma Shakti, is making the whole world run. The toys of ashes were placed there while playing by my Lord Sri Ram. The air of life inside you, me and everyone comes from Brahman, but our ego is like that paper that rolls up when the whistle blows. Brahman blows and transmits some air in the form of life breath inside us, and we put our heads up like the paper rolls out when the whistle blows. We had no part in this energy coming to us, but we immediately put our heads up. This energy comes to us in the form of beauty, power, wisdom, wealth, etc., and our heads immediately go up. Only a person who has the attitude of Name, it is not mine, can do namaskar bowing down and bow down to God. Only this feeling can make a person humble and make a person do namaskar bowing down. Whenever Guruji is giving a discourse on the Srimad Bhagavad and he's staying with a family outside town, then it's natural that they will come to bow down to him and he will also bow down to them. Some people ask him why he's bowing down to them because they're incurring a sin as a result of this. He tells them that they are not incurring sin. They tell him that it's fine that they bow down to him, but that he should just raise his hands and bless them. They ask him why he bows down to them. He tells them that he bows down to them because his mind tells him to do so, and he bows down to them just like they bow down to him. They tell him that they have a reason for which they bow down, and they ask him why. They tell him that it's because he has wisdom. He tells them that this wisdom is not mine, Name. They tell him that he's performed these penances and that it's a ceremony. He tells them that these penances are not even his. Wisdom is not even his, and penances are not even his. Then in the end, some people admit it and say that they're bowing down to the God inside him. He then tells them to give him the same rights, and just like they see the God in him and bow down to him, then he can also see the God in them, and therefore he bows down to them. Many elders tell him very seriously that they will incur sin if he bows down to them. He tells them not to worry because he sees God in them. He knows that the reason for which they're bowing down to him is Name, not mine, and it's all because of God's grace. Namaskar bowing down is a very big thing. Namaskar bowing down can happen in three ways. First, namaskar bowing down is done with the body. Bowing down with the body is not a great namaskar bowing down. Sometimes the body mechanically does namaskar, or through habit. If we're traveling on a road and we see a temple, then people habitually bow down. Only the body bows down. Secondly, beyond this, there is namaskar bowing down with the speech, the vak. Rather than just the body bowing down, if the body and the speech are bowing down, then this is better. That is why you see in ancient times when Sanskrit was widely spoken, and it's still the case in some families, that when people do namaskar bowing down, then they also say that they're doing namaskar bowing down. After doing this, it becomes very literal that they're bowing down with their speech. What this means is that their speech is being used for the person to whom they do namaskar bowing down, and that you cannot talk to a person to whom you do namaskar bowing down with a raised voice. These are all namaskar with the speech. Guruji knows that still in practice, for example, in the famous Bhartiya families in India, that people say with the speech that they're bowing down, and they bow down with the bodies at the same time. Youngsters bow down the shoulders, and the elders touch the shoulders. Those who are Bhartiya will understand this. Therefore, there is bowing down with the body and the speech. Even above bowing down with the speech is bowing down with the heart. Bowing down with the heart is the greatest state of all. I'll even go so far as to say that once the heart bows down, then even if the body does not bow down, then it won't matter. The body will bow down by itself. If the heart bows down, then the body cannot go without bowing down. But if there is a weakness or limitation in the body, and the body does not bow down, then it will be fine because the heart has bowed down. Swami Ramtit had a great teaching. As soon as somebody bowed down to Swami Ramtit will stop them and ask them, think about it properly. If you live with me for 7 to 10 days, then take your time, but once you bow down, then you will not be able to get up. Bow down with the heart. Saste mein sir duka, ab utna haram hai. Only if you do namaskar bowing down with the heart, will it be proper namaskar bowing down. Doing namaskar bowing down with the body has no worth apart from exercise. Doing namaskar, bowing down with the speech, has slightly more use than this, but true namaskar is that which is done with the heart. If someone does namaskar, bowing down to the Supreme Soul, and bows their heart down to the Supreme Soul, then Shri Krishna says that this person is a Mahatma, a great soul. Shri Krishna also says that such Mahatmas worship him ever disciplined. Shri Krishna uses the word upasate. Up means near, and asate means to sit down. Therefore, Mahatmas, great souls, sit near to God. Not only this, but they sit near to God all the time, because Shri Krishna also uses the word nitya yuktaha, which shows proximity of place of sitting and perpetuity of time. Mahatmas, great souls, constantly and consistently sit near to God. They sit near God in every place and during every moment. They experience nearness to God. That is why you see that there is no fear in the life of devotees. When the 16th chapter of the Gita comes, they will see that where Shri Krishna describes the qualities of divine people, the first word he used to describe them is abhayam. What does this mean? Fearlessness. They have no fear, because if someone is constantly sitting near to God and is never separated from God for even a moment, then how can they have fear? When Guruji was in college, and he was very interested in theatres, and saw a play in a Prithvi Theatre in Mumbai, produced by the Indian People's Theatre Association, the IPTA. The play was called Saya Bhai Kotwal. Anyone heard of this? Saya Bhai Kotwal. And the story was set in the village. In the village, being a Kotwal, a policeman, is a very big thing, and a person has very big status. If someone is a policeman in a big city like Mumbai or London, it's not a very big thing, but in the village, a person has a very large status. The children in the village fear his very name. Guruji remembers a song from a play that went, Saya Bhai Kotwal Abdar Kaheka. My husband is a policeman, and now what is there to fear? The actress's husband becomes Kotwal policeman after getting a promotion, and after her husband gets this position, the consequence is that this actress changes so much that she tells everyone that her husband is a Kotwal policeman, so that there is nothing to fear. It's a very nice play. It's a political satire. We see this especially in a democracy like India. As soon as a person becomes a politician, then his own people become very happy. In reality, the reason why the person got into power was to fulfill a duty and to give service to society, and that is why that person has been given power. But this power gets exploited, and people close to the politician look for the advantages in them, in him attaining power, and the reason that this first person has been given power is a byproduct. This person has come into power so that the people close to him can take everything from society. It was this type of political satire, but there it was a song that went, my husband is a policeman, now what is there to fear? If an ordinary person has become a Kotwal policeman, and a wife gets so much courage that her husband is a Kotwal policeman, that if the devotee finds out that he is sitting close and is joined to the husband of the world, then what is there to fear? What fear can the devotee have? The devotee cannot have fear for anything. In the 13th verse, Shri Krishna used the word gnatva, having known, and now in the 14th verse, Shri Krishna uses the words bhaktya, worshipping, and nitya yuktaha, ever disciplined. Gnatva, having known in the 13th verse, represents gnan, wisdom. Bhaktya, worshipping, in this verse represents bhakti, devotion, and nitya yuktaha, ever disciplined, in this verse represents karma, actions. The Gita here shows the coordination of gnan, wisdom, bhakti, devotion, and karma, actions. Shri Krishna shows this over and over again in the Gita. The peak state of being a Mahatma, a great soul, can only be achieved through the coordination of gnan, wisdom, bhakti, devotion, and karma, actions. All three are very important. Next verse. Okay.